The galaxy froze. Humanity's armada defied all odds. The Sol system looked like a nightmare. Commander Day-Wan stared at the view screen and felt his heart break. Mars was gone, stripped to its core by Vraxian harvesting. Venus glowed with strange colors where they had built processing facilities. The asteroid belt had been consumed, and Earth, beautiful Earth, was covered in organic growth. The Vraxians had transformed the homeworld into a breeding ground. Tens of thousands of bioships filled the system. They looked like insects made of metal and flesh. Some were small fighters. Others were massive carriers that birthed new warriors constantly. The largest vessel, the Queen ship, hung in orbit above Earth like a diseased moon. The impossible armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. 847 ships against an enemy that outnumbered them 12-1. All ships battle stations, Day-Wan ordered. Execute Phase 1. The Draken clans moved first. 50 heavy warships accelerated toward the outer system where Vraxian scouts patrolled. Rathek led them personally, his battle cry echoing across the communication channels. The Draken hit the Vraxian scouts like a hammer. Their ships were built for close combat. Heavy armor, massive weapons, no subtlety, just pure destructive power. The scouts never had a chance. Behind the Draken came the Keltheran dreadnoughts. Velkara commanded the Eternal Flame at the center of the formation. Keltheran ships were elegant and deadly. Their weapons could tear apart planets. Now they focused that power on the Vraxian outer defenses. The battle began in earnest. Vraxian bioships swarmed toward the attackers. They moved like living things because they were living things. Each ship was grown, not built. They healed damage, adapted to attacks, learned from each encounter. But the Keltheran had fought biological enemies before. Velkara's ships used plasma weapons that burned too hot for regeneration. They targeted weak points, coordinated their fire. Hundreds of Vraxian vessels died in the first hour. The main Vraxian fleet reacted. Thousands of ships moved to intercept the attackers. They pulled away from Earth orbit exactly as planned. Phase 2, Day-Wan ordered. Captain Jiwoo, you're clear. Captain Jiwoo led 20 stealth frigates on suicide runs against Vraxian breeding grounds. The moon had been transformed into a massive hatchery. Europa was worse. The ice had been melted and the ocean turned into a spawning pool. Jiwoo's ships moved fast and quiet. They dropped nuclear weapons on the breeding sites and fled before the Vraxians could respond. Mushroom clouds bloomed across the moon. Europa's ocean boiled. The Vraxians screamed. Not in sound, but in psychic rage that every species with the Armada could feel. They were not just losing ships. They were losing their future. More Vraxian vessels broke from Earth orbit to chase Jiwoo's raiders. The enemy was scattering, spreading out, getting disorganized. Perfect. Phase 3, Day-Wan commanded. All ships full assault. Target, Earth orbit. The entire Armada charged forward. 500 ships moving as one. The resonance network hummed with power, maintaining the bubble of normal space around them. Admiral Yuna coordinated the attack from Arc Prime. She had fought in simulators for decades, but never in a real battle this large. Now she commanded 23 species simultaneously, adjusting formations and redirecting firepower in real time. The Silton fighters moved like a swarm. Individual ships were weak, but together they overwhelmed enemy defenses. They covered the heavier vessels, intercepting missiles and drawing fire. Human carriers launched wave after wave of fighters. Pilot Minho led his squadron personally. He had trained half these pilots, watched them grow from frightened survivors to skilled warriors. Now they flew beside him into hell. The space around Earth became a maelstrom. Ships exploded constantly. Debris created additional hazards. The Vraxian bioships adapted quickly, learning the Armada's tactics and countering them. But the Armada had something the Vraxians did not. Creativity. Each species fought differently. The Vraxians could adapt to one style of combat, but they could not adapt to 23 different styles simultaneously. Day-Wan watched the battle unfold on tactical displays. His ship, the Indomitable, led the main assault. Around him, his crew worked with desperate efficiency. They had trained for this moment, sacrificed for it. Now they would win or die trying. A massive Vraxian carrier moved to intercept the Indomitable. It was huge, bigger than 10 human ships combined. It launched fighters by the hundreds, biological missiles that sought targets with predatory intelligence. Evasive maneuvers, Daewon ordered. Return fire all weapons. The Indomitable shuddered as missiles impacted its shields. Energy weapons burned across its hull. But the ship held. Human engineering was primitive but sturdy. Dr. Hana worked in the ship's laboratory even as battle raged. She monitored the resonance network constantly. The generators were taking damage. Ships were dying. Each loss weakened the network. "Commander, we're losing coherence," she reported. "If we lose 3 more generator ships, the network collapses. Then we make sure we don't lose 3 more ships," Daewon said. But the losses mounted. A Keltheran cruiser exploded. A Draken warship was torn apart by concentrated fire. A Silthran vessel broke into pieces. Each death was felt across the fleet. Engineer Sora fought her own battle in the engine room. She rerouted power, patched damage, kept the Indomitable running through sheer will and technical genius. When a plasma conduit exploded, she repaired it with her bare hands despite the burns. "We're losing atmosphere on decks 5 through 7, a damage control officer reported. "Seal them," Daewon ordered without hesitation. Crew members were trapped on those decks, but he could not save everyone. Only the mission mattered. The Vraxian Queen ship finally moved. It had stayed above Earth, protected by thousands of defenders. Now it entered the battle personally. The vessel was 5 kilometers long, a living fortress that commanded the entire swarm. Velkara saw it immediately. "That's their command center. Kill it and the swarm loses coordination. All heavy ships target the Queen ship," Admiral Yuna ordered, but the Vraxians protected their queen. Hundreds of bioships formed a living shield. They sacrificed themselves to block incoming fire. The Queen ship advanced slowly through the carnage, heading toward the Armada's center. Pilot Minho saw what others did not. The Queen ship had one vulnerability: a massive intake port on its underside that drew in energy for its biological systems. It was heavily defended but not impossible to reach. He made his decision. "This is Minho to Indomitable. Tell my students they did well. Tell them I'm proud." Daewon understood immediately. "Minho, no. We need you. You need this Queen ship dead more." Minho's fighter accelerated toward the enemy vessel. "Besides, I've been dying since the day my squadron froze. This just makes it official." "Minho!" Daewon shouted, but Minho was already gone. His fighter dodged through swarms of defenders. Other pilots tried to follow but could not keep up. Minho flew like a man possessed. No fear, no doubt, only purpose. He reached the intake port. Vraxian defenders converged on him. His shields failed, his hull breached. It did not matter. He triggered the resonance key. Dr. Hana had modified it at his request hours earlier. Instead of creating a bubble of normal space, Minho's key had been inverted. It would create a burst of the Great Stillness, a localized pulse that would freeze biological technology. The key detonated. A wave of entropy spread from Minho's fighter. It touched the Queen ship first. The massive vessel shuddered. Its biological systems froze, failed, died. The Queen ship began to drift, lifeless. The wave expanded. It caught thousands of Vraxian vessels in its radius. All of them froze instantly. Their organic technology could not resist. Minho's fighter vanished in the pulse. He died instantly, painlessly. His sacrifice saved the Armada. The remaining Vraxian ships panicked. Without their queen and with 70% of their fleet frozen, they had no coordination, no direction. They scattered. "All ships pursue and destroy," Admiral Yuna ordered. The Armada tore through the disorganized Vraxians. It was not a battle anymore. It was an execution. Ship after ship fell. The Vraxians that could escape fled toward deep space. The rest died. Within hours, the battle for space was won. But the battle for Earth was just beginning. The Vraxians had spent months building control nodes on the surface. organic structures that directed the transformation of Earth into a breeding world. These nodes had to be destroyed or Earth would remain poisoned. Daewon led a ground assault personally. He took Sora, Tavarin, and 200 Marines. They landed in what used to be Geneva. The city was unrecognizable. Organic growth covered everything. Buildings had been consumed and reformed into hive structures, and in the center of the ruins, the Vraxian hive core pulsed with dark energy. General Wan met them at the landing site. She was gaunt, scarred, her uniform torn and bloody, but she stood tall, proud, unbroken. "You came," she said simply. "We promised," Daewon replied. One showed them to the hive core. "It's protected by the Queen Empress. She's different from the other Vraxians, bigger, smarter, more dangerous. She has some kind of psychic power. She gets in your head. Can she be killed? Everything can be killed. Question is whether we can do it before she detonates the planetary explosives." Explosives? The galaxy froze. Humanity's Armada defied all odds. The first ship they woke was a Keltheran dreadnought named Eternal Flame. It had been frozen in orbit around a dead mining colony. 3,000 crew members slept in emergency pods waiting for rescue that had never come. Dr. Hana activated the resonance key. Energy pulsed out in a wave, creating a bubble of normal space around both ships. Inside the bubble, advanced technology worked again. The dreadnought systems flickered to life. Emergency power engaged, life support activated. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Daewon watched the alien ship wake up. It was beautiful and terrifying. The Keltheran had built it to destroy planets. "They're powering weapons," the sensor officer reported nervously. "Expected," Daewon said. "They don't know what happened." "Stand by to communicate," the communication channel crackled. A Keltheran voice spoke in their clicking, hissing language. Tavarin translated. "They're asking who we are and why they're not dead." "Tell them the truth," Daewon ordered. Tavarin explained everything. The great stillness, the frozen galaxy, the Vraxian attacks, the human fleet trying to reach Earth, the resonance key that brought them back to life. There was a long silence. Then the Keltheran commander responded. Tavarin translated with a small smile. "She says any species clever enough to wake a Keltheran dreadnought deserves respect. She's offering her ship and crew to our cause." The commander's name was Velkara. She was a warrior with scales darkened by age and battle scars. When she came aboard the Indomitable to meet Daewon face to face, she towered over the humans. But she bowed her head in respect. "You gave my crew life," she said in rough human language. "We give you service. Until death or victory." That was the first ship. Over the next weeks, there were dozens more. Captain Jiwoo led missions to locate frozen vessels. She had a gift for finding ships that could be saved. Her frigate Shadow's Edge darted through dead space, scanning for life signs and intact systems. She found a Silthran hive ship drifting near a collapsed jump gate. The Silthran were a collective species, thousands of individuals sharing one mind. When Hana woke them, they panicked. Their connection had been broken by the great stillness. But slowly, they reformed their collective consciousness and understood what had happened. The Silthran were suspicious at first. Their species did not trust outsiders. But their hive mother, a being named Synthesis, recognized the truth. The galaxy was dying. Only cooperation could save it. "We join this impossible effort," Synthesis said through her drones. "We add our strength to yours." The Draken were harder to convince. They were reptilian warriors who valued honor above all. Their clan ships had been caught in the great stillness while returning from a raid. When Captain Jiwoo woke them, they immediately prepared for combat. Their clan leader, a scarred veteran named Rathek, demanded single combat with the human commander. It was their way. Only the strong could lead Draken. Daewon accepted. Admiral Yuna protested from Arc Prime, but Daewon overruled her. "If we want their ships, we follow their rules." The combat took place in the Indomitable's cargo bay. Draken and humans watched as Daewon faced Rathek. The Draken was larger, stronger, covered in natural armor and armed with claws like knives. Daewon had experience and desperation. The fight was brutal. Rathek moved with speed that should have been impossible for something his size. He struck Daewon twice, leaving deep cuts, but Daewon used the Draken's aggression against him. He dodged, waited, struck at weak points between armor scales. When Rathek lunged, Day-Wan sidestepped and drove his combat knife into the Draken's shoulder joint. It was not a killing blow. It was a disabling one. Rathek roared and fell. The fight was over. Day-Wan helped him up. I need warriors, not corpses. Will you fight with me? Rathek laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You fight with honor. We follow. Species by species, ship by ship, the Armada grew. Engineer Sora worked miracles. She had to integrate dozens of different technologies into a working fleet. Keltheran power systems, Silthrin organic processors, Draka weapons, human navigation. Nothing was compatible, but Sora made it work through determination and creative engineering. It's held together with hope and spare parts, she told Day-Wan one evening. But it flies. Admiral Yuna coordinated everything from Arc Prime. She was not just a military commander anymore. She was a diplomat, negotiating between species that had been enemies for centuries. The Keltheran and Draken had fought 3 wars. Old hatreds ran deep. Yuna forced them to work together by simple logic. Hate each other later. Right now you die together or survive together. Diplomat Hyun found his purpose. The man who had criticized Day-Wan for abandoning frozen ships now helped wake those ships. He understood alien psychology, knew how to speak to different species. His diplomatic training saved lives when cultural misunderstandings threatened to tear the fragile alliance apart. One crisis nearly destroyed everything. A group of Keltheran purists, led by a commander named Vexthor, attempted to seize control of the Armada. They believed humans were too primitive to lead. They wanted Velkara to take command. Velkara herself stopped the mutiny. She challenged Vexthor publicly. Keltheran law was clear. Trial by combat. Winner takes all. The fight lasted 3 minutes. Velkara was older but far more experienced. She killed Vexthor with brutal efficiency. Then she addressed her people in their own language. Tavrin translated for the humans. We follow the humans because they earned it. They woke us when they could have left us to die. They shared their discovery when they could have kept it secret. Any Keltheran who disagrees can fight me now. Nobody stepped forward. The crisis passed, but it left scars. Trust between species remained fragile. Dr. Hana worked endlessly to improve the resonance key. She created what she called the resonance network. Multiple generators linked together, extending the bubble of normal space across the entire Armada. As long as the network functioned, all ships could use their advanced systems. It's not perfect, she warned Day-Wan. If we lose too many generators, the network collapses. Everything freezes again. Then we protect the generators, Day-Wan said simply. Pilot Minho became a legend among the fleet. He trained pilots from a dozen species, showed them tricks for flying in the great stillness, taught them to trust primitive navigation when their computers failed. He still carried guilt over his dead squadron, but now he channeled that guilt into purpose. Every pilot he trained was a way to honor his fallen comrades. 3 months passed. The Armada grew from 10 ships to 847, 23 different species working together, humans, Keltheran, Silthrin, Draken, and 19 others. It should have been impossible. Ancient enemies fighting side by side, different technologies integrated into a cohesive force. But desperation made strange allies, and humans somehow held it all together. Why do they follow you? Velkara asked Day-Wan one day. They stood in the observation deck watching the Armada maneuver through training exercises. I don't know, Day-Wan admitted. We're not the strongest. Not the smartest. Not the most advanced. No, Velkara agreed. But you are the most stubborn. You refuse to accept defeat. That is a rare quality. News from Earth finally arrived. A narrow beam transmission that should not have been possible through the great stillness. Somehow the Resistance had built a beacon using old technology. The message was short. We still stand. Hurry. It was signed by General Wan, commander of Earth's ground forces. Day-Wan played the message for his command staff. Humans and aliens together in the briefing room. Earth still fights, he said. They've held for 3 months against impossible odds. Now we bring them help. He activated a star chart. The Sol system. The Vraxians have transformed it into a hive. Thousands of bioships. Breeding grounds on Mars and the Moon. Earth itself is under siege. The display showed the enemy numbers. 10,000 Vraxian vessels. The Armada had 847 ships. The odds are not good, Velkara observed. No, Day-Wan agreed. But when have odds ever been good? He outlined the plan. A three-phase attack. The Draken and Keltharan heavy ships would punch through the outer defenses. Captain Jiwoo would lead raids against Vraxian breeding grounds. The main fleet would engage the enemy in Earth orbit. It was desperate. Probably suicidal. But it was a chance. Questions? Daewon asked. Synthesis spoke through her drones. What happens if we fail? We don't, Daewon said simply. Failure is not an option. Earth represents more than one planet. It represents hope. If we lose Earth, we lose the will to keep fighting. The galaxy stays frozen forever. He looked around the room at faces from 24 species. You all chose to wake up, chose to fight, chose to join this impossible mission. Why? Rathak answered. Because fighting is better than freezing. Velkara nodded. Because someone must stand against the dark. Synthesis added. Because unity is stronger than isolation. Daewon smiled. Then we stand together. 23 species, 847 ships. One goal. He activated the fleet-wide communication. His words were translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. This is Commander Daewon to all ships. We've come far together, crossed dead space, woken the sleeping, built something that should not exist, an armada of ancient enemies united by common purpose. The galaxy froze. Humanity's armada defied all odds. The structure floated in the darkness like a massive spiderweb made of metal and light. It was 300 kilometers across, built around a dead star. The human fleet approached slowly, their sensors struggling to understand what they were seeing. It's impossible, Dr. Hana whispered. The energy readings are off every scale. This thing is still working, fully working. Commander Daewon stared at the view screen. The architect installation was beautiful and terrifying. It had survived millions of years. It had survived the Great Stillness. Whatever built this was far beyond anything the galaxy had ever known. We're being scanned, the sensor officer reported. Multiple systems are targeting us, but they're not weapons. I think it's analyzing us. Tavren studied his console with wide eyes. This is the Nexus Core. Keltharan legends speak of it. The architects built several installations like this across the galaxy. They were research stations, knowledge centers, libraries of ancient wisdom. Can we dock with it? Daewon asked. I'm detecting a docking structure on the southern section. It looks designed for ships much larger than ours, but we can adapt. The Indomitable moved carefully toward the docking port. The other ships held position at a safe distance. If this was a trap, at least most of the fleet would survive. Daewon assembled an exploration team, Dr. Hana and Tavren for their scientific knowledge, Lieutenant Kang and his security squad for protection, Engineer Sora to understand any technology they found, and a specialist named Bora who had studied dead languages and ancient cultures before, becoming a ship maintenance officer. Nobody expected her knowledge to become essential. The airlock, connected to the Nexus Core with a deep metallic sound. Atmosphere flooded the connection tunnel. Sensors confirmed it was breathable, though strange in composition. The team entered wearing light armor and carrying weapons. The interior of the Nexus Core was vast. Corridors stretched in every direction, their walls covered in symbols that glowed with soft blue light. The architecture was organic and geometric at the same time, following rules of design that human minds struggled to understand. The architects were not humanoid, Tavren said quietly. They did not think like us. This place was built for minds that saw reality differently. They walked through silent halls, emergency lights activated as they passed, responding to their presence. The facility had been dormant for ages but was waking up now. Bora stopped at a wall covered in symbols. She pulled out a scanner and began recording the markings. These symbols appear in ruins across multiple systems. Different species have tried to translate them for centuries. Nobody succeeded, and can you read them? Daewon asked. Some. Enough. This symbol means warning. This one means sealed. And this... She touched a large symbol that pulsed with darker light. This means weapon. They continued deeper into the facility. The corridors led them to a central chamber so large they could not see the far walls. In the center stood a platform surrounded by holographic displays. When the team approached, the displays activated, images appeared. The architects themselves, they were beings of pure energy contained in crystalline structures. They showed no emotion, no humanity, but their message was clear. Bora translated haltingly. The ancient language fought against modern understanding. But slowly the story emerged. The architects had been the galaxy's first advanced civilization. They had mastered physics, conquered death, built wonders that lasted forever. But their technology had attracted attention from outside reality. Things that lived in dimensions humans could not see. Things that fed on energy and complexity. The architects called them the void entities. They came through rifts in space, Bora translated. The architects fought them for 1,000 years. They won battles but could not win the war. The void entities kept coming, so the architects built a final weapon. The entropy cascade. The hologram showed the weapon being constructed. Massive installations built around dying stars. All connected. All synchronized. The entropy cascade was designed to freeze all advanced technology, Bora continued. It would make the galaxy too primitive for the void entities to invade. Like removing all the food from a house to starve out pests? How long was it supposed to last? Dr. Hana asked. Bora was quiet as she studied the symbols. Then she spoke softly. 500 years. Long enough for the dimensional rifts to heal. Long enough for the void entities to forget about our galaxy. How long has it been active? Daewon demanded. 3 months. The team stood in silence. 500 years. The galaxy would be frozen for 5 centuries. Everything they knew would be gone by the time it ended, unless they could stop it early. Tavren spoke up. The Keltheran archives mentioned that the architects died trying to close the dimensional rifts. They sacrificed themselves, but they succeeded. The rifts closed. The void entities were pushed back. Then why is the entropy cascade still active? Sora asked. Bora translated more symbols. It was designed with safety protocols. Once activated, it runs for the full 500 years. The architects did not trust anyone to shut it down early. They feared species would restart advanced technology too soon and attract the void entities again. Dr. Hana moved to another display, but there must be a way to override it. Nothing is completely foolproof. She worked quickly, her fingers dancing over controls that were never designed for human hands. Tavren helped, his Keltheran knowledge combining with her human intuition. Together they found it. There is an override, Hana said, but the cost is extreme. Shutting down the entropy cascade early requires an enormous energy release, the same amount of energy that a star produces when it explodes. A supernova? Kang asked. Yes, someone would need to detonate a star system. Every planet, every ship within it, everything turned into pure energy to break the cascade field. The chamber went silent again. To save the galaxy, they would need to destroy a star system, kill everything in it. Daewon felt sick. Is there another way? No, Hana said. The architects made sure of that. They wanted the galaxy to stay frozen for 500 years. This is the only override, and it requires sacrifice they believed nobody would make. Sora examined the data. Could we do it? Do we have the technology? Maybe, Hana said. If we had the right equipment, the right knowledge, and the willingness to die. Daewon turned away from the displays. His mind raced. They had come here hoping for answers. They found answers they wished they had not. Keep searching, he ordered. There has to be something else useful here. The team spread out through the central chamber. Bora found more messages from the architects. Warnings about the void entities. Instructions on how to detect dimensional rifts. Lists of technology that should never be built. And a revelation about the Viraxians. Commander, Bora called. You need to see this. The hologram showed biological technology. Living ships. Organic computers. Everything the Viraxians used. This technology is derived from the void entities, Bora translated. The architects identified several species that had been corrupted, changed by contact with dimensional invaders. These species use biology instead of technology. They are immune to the entropy cascade. They are the enemy's agents left behind to harvest frozen civilizations. Daewon felt cold understanding wash over him. The Viraxians were not just opportunistic invaders. They were weapons. Tools created or corrupted by the things the architects had fought. How many species were corrupted? He asked. Bora studied the displays. 7. 7 species across the galaxy with biological technology. All immune to the Great Stillness. All programmed to harvest frozen civilizations when the entropy cascade activated. 7 species attacking hundreds of helpless worlds. Tavren said quietly. It was genocide on a galactic scale. Dr. Hana found another section of the facility. This one contained physical objects instead of just data. Commander, there's a device here. It's labeled as a resonance key. The device was small, fitting in a human hand. It looked like a crystalline sphere that pulsed with internal light. What does it do? Daewon asked. Hana studied the architect documentation. It creates localized zones of normal space, like bubbles in the great stillness. Inside these bubbles, advanced technology works again. How large are the bubbles? That depends on how much power you feed the device. With enough energy, you could create a bubble several light years across, enough to protect a fleet. Daewon understood immediately. We could wake up frozen ships, bring them back to life inside the bubble. Yes, you could build an army from the dead. Lieutenant Kang examined the key carefully. This is dangerous. If the wrong people got this, they could restart advanced technology in isolated areas. They could attract the void entities back. The void entities are gone, Tavrin said. The architects defeated them. The rifts are closed. This key is just a tool now. Daewon made his decision. We take it, we use it. We wake up every ship we can and build an armada. As they prepared to leave, the facility reacted. Alarms blared in a frequency that made teeth ache. Lights flashed red. The holographic displays showed an ancient guardian system activating. It knows we took the key, Sora shouted over the noise. It's trying to stop us. Walls slammed shut, blocking corridors. The team ran. Behind them, something moved in the darkness. The galaxy froze. Humanity's armada defied all odds. The dead ships floated everywhere. Commander Daewon watched them drift past on the view screen. Each one a tomb holding thousands of frozen bodies. Some were small trading vessels. Others were massive warships that had once made planets tremble. Now they were all the same. Silent. Dark. Dead. The human fleet had been traveling for 6 weeks. They moved through sectors that had once been busy trade routes. Now those routes were graveyards. The Indomitable led the way, its sensors sweeping constantly for dangers and opportunities. Commander, I'm reading a large vessel ahead, said the sensor officer. It's Keltheran, very big. Looks like a flagship. Daewon leaned forward. How big? 3 kilometers long. It's the Eternal Victory. Their empire's pride. I'm detecting intact weapon systems and cargo holds full of supplies. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. That ship could change everything. Its weapons could give them a fighting chance against the Vraxians. Its supplies could keep the fleet running for months. Bring us alongside, Daewon ordered. Prepare boarding teams. Engineer Sora led the salvage operation. She was practical about death. The Keltheran crew was gone, frozen at their stations when their systems failed. Her team moved through the massive ship with cutting torches and cargo equipment, taking everything useful. They found weapons that could tear through Vraxian bioships. They found armor plating stronger than anything humans had built. They found enough food stores to feed the fleet for 3 months. But they also found something else. Commander, you need to see this, Sora called over the radio. Daewon met her in the Keltheran ship's medical bay. Rows of cryopods lined the walls. Lights blinked on several pods. Sora pointed at a display screen. They got into emergency sleep before the ship died. There are 243 Keltheran military personnel alive in these pods, including their science officer. Daewon studied the pods. Saving these aliens would cost resources, food, water, medical supplies. Everything was already stretched thin. But they would also gain experienced warriors and a Keltheran scientist who might understand technology the humans did not. Wake the science officer, Daewon decided. Keep the others frozen for now. The Keltheran who emerged from cryosleep was named Tavren. He was tall and covered in gray scales. His species looked like humans had been mixed with lizards. When he fully woke and understood what had happened, he did not panic. He simply asked, "How can I help?" Daewon liked him immediately. Tavrin joined Dr. Hana in the laboratory. The two scientists worked together despite barely speaking the same language. Hana showed him her research on the Great Stillness. Tavrin shared Keltheran knowledge about ancient technologies. On the 3rd day of their collaboration, they made a breakthrough. The entropy cascade is artificial, Hana explained to Daewon in the lab. Tavrin found references in Keltheran historical databases. There's an ancient species called the Architects. They built megastructures across the galaxy millions of years ago. The Keltheran believed the Architects created the entropy cascade as a weapon. Against who? Daewon asked. Taverns spoke in halting human language, against things from outside, from dimensions we cannot see. The architects fought them, built the cascade to stop them, and the Vraxians? Hana and Tavrin exchanged looks. The Vraxian biological technology might be derived from these dimensional entities. That's why they're immune to the Great Stillness. Daewon felt a chill. They were not just fighting insects. They were fighting something older and stranger than anyone had realized. While the scientist worked, Captain Jiwoo took her frigate Shadow's Edge on scouting missions. She was young and aggressive, always pushing the boundaries. Daewon gave her freedom because she got results. She returned from one mission with troubling news. I found a frozen space station in the outer reach, she reported. Caltheran military base. I accessed their logs before the power died. And they knew it was coming. The Great Stillness. Multiple species detected the entropy cascade building for weeks before it activated. They sent warnings to everyone, including Earth. Daewon felt anger rise in his chest. We never got any warning. No, Jiwoo said quietly. Someone blocked the messages. Or they arrived too late. Either way, humanity went into the Great Stillness blind. That night, Daewon could not sleep. He thought about all the people who had died because of a missed warning. He thought about his daughter, who might have been evacuated if Earth had known what was coming. But dwelling on the past would not save the future. He pushed the anger down and focused on what came next. Pilot Minho became essential to the fleet's survival. He was 28 and had been the best fighter pilot in his squadron. When the Great Stillness hit, his entire squadron died around him. Only his ship survived because he had been running diagnostics on the backup systems. Now he led missions through the debris fields that cluttered their path. Dead ships created obstacles everywhere. Some were moving slowly, drifting on trajectories that would take centuries to change. Others were caught in decaying orbits around dead stars. Minho's skill kept the fleet moving safely. But everyone could see the weight on him. He had watched his friends die and felt guilty for surviving. One day, Engineer Sora found him in the hangar, sitting alone in his fighter. You know it wasn't your fault, she said. Minho did not look at her. I was running diagnostics. If I hadn't been, I would have died with them. Why did I survive? Why me? Sora climbed into the cockpit next to him. Because you're needed. Because someone has to guide us home. Your friends died, yes, but you living honors them more than you dying would have. Minho was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slightly. I'll get us home. I promised them that much. On the 85th day of their journey, conflict erupted in the fleet. A group of junior officers on the destroyer Thunder approached Admiral Yuna with a demand. They had been communicating secretly across the ships, building support for their position. Lieutenant Hyun was their spokesman. He had been a diplomat before the war and believed in moral choices. He stood before Admiral Yuna on a video call with Daewon listening. We're passing thousands of ships with sleeping crews, Hyun said. People who could be saved. We have the Caltheran pods. We know how to wake them. We should be rescuing everyone we can. Yuna's face was stone. And feed them with what? We have supplies for our current numbers for 3 months. Every person we wake reduces that time. We can salvage more supplies, which takes time we don't have. Earth is dying, Hyun's voice rose. Earth is one planet. We're talking about saving millions of people across dozens of species. The moral choice is clear, Daewon interrupted. The moral choice is to save our own people first. These aliens are strangers. Earth is home. Strangers who would help us if positions were reversed, Hyun argued. Maybe, Daewon said. But we'll never know because we're going to save Earth. The conversation ended badly. Hyun and his supporters were not satisfied, but they were overruled. The fleet continued on its course, passing frozen ships without stopping, but the moral weight grew heavier with each ship they abandoned. Daewon felt it most of all. He gave the orders. He made the calculations. He chose Earth over everyone else. At night he dreamed of the millions they could have saved and did not. You're making the right choice, Sora told him one evening in the mess hall. Am I? Daewon stared at his food without eating. What if we reach Earth and find nothing left? What if we're too late? Then all those people we passed died for nothing. They were already dead, Sora said firmly. We didn't kill them. The Great Stillness did. You're just trying to save who you can with what you have. Daewon wanted to believe her. On the 90th day, the sensors detected something impossible, an energy signature in the Abyss Cluster, a region of space known for ancient ruins and spatial anomalies. The signature should not exist. Nothing should be working in the great stillness. Dr. Hana studied the readings with excitement. It's broadcasting on pre-quantum frequencies. Very old technology. It might be an architect installation, Tavrin agreed. The architects built things designed to survive anything. If their facility is still active, it might have answers, maybe even a way to reverse the great stillness. Day one looked at the navigation charts. Reaching the signal would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks they did not have. Earth was dying now. But if the architects had answers, if there was even a chance of fixing the galaxy, he made the decision. Set course for the signal. Maximum speed, some of the crew objected. Some understood. But everyone obeyed. As the fleet turned toward the Abyss cluster, Day One addressed them again. We're taking a detour. 2 weeks. Some of you think this is wrong. Some think we're wasting time. Maybe you're right. But if there's a chance, any chance of finding a way to save more than just Earth, we have to take it. He paused, then continued. We're not just fighting for one planet anymore. We're fighting for the entire galaxy. Every species that's frozen. Every civilization that's collapsed. If we can find a way to fix this, we save everyone. That's worth 2 weeks. Captain Jiwoo supported the decision publicly but spoke privately to Daewon afterward. You're gambling everything on a signal we don't understand. Yes, Daewon admitted. What if it's a trap? The galaxy froze. Humanity's armada defied all odds. Commander Daewon stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Indomitable, watching his world fall apart. The screen showed chaos everywhere. Ships floated dead in space, no lights, no power, no life. 60 vessels had been in the Helios sector just minutes ago. Now only 12 still had working engines, and all 12 were human ships. The wave had come without warning. One moment the galaxy hummed with activity. Thousands of ships traveled between stars. Communications linked billions of people across hundreds of worlds. The next moment everything stopped. Every advanced system failed. Faster than light drives shut down. Quantum computers went dark. Artificial intelligence systems died instantly. They called it the Great Stillness. Day One was 47 years old and had fought in 3 wars. He had seen terrible things. But nothing prepared him for this. Around his ship, alien vessels drifted like corpses. The proud Keltheran dreadnoughts were dark metal coffins. The swift Draken cruisers tumbled slowly through the void. Even the mighty Silthran collective ships powered by living organisms had gone silent. Only human ships survived, and Day One knew why. Humans were considered primitive by galactic standards. Other species mocked human engineers for keeping backup systems. Old fusion drives, chemical thrusters, pre-quantum navigation computers, technology that other civilizations had abandoned centuries ago. Now that primitive thinking kept them alive. "Commander, we have a signal," said Lieutenant Kang from the communication station. His voice was tight with stress. "It's from Earth, very weak. Very broken." Day One moved quickly to the station. Put it through, static filled the bridge. Then words came through, broken and terrible. "Earth. Under attack. Vraxian swarm. Shields down. Requesting. All ships. Return home. Months. Maybe less." The message cut off. Day One felt ice in his stomach. The Vraxians were an insectoid species that used biological technology. While every other civilization relied on quantum computers and advanced AI, the Vraxians grew their ships from living matter. They were immune to the Great Stillness and they were eating Earth. "How long to reach Earth?" Day One asked. The navigation officer, a young woman named Hana who usually worked in the science division, looked up with haunted eyes. "At conventional speeds, 4 months, maybe 5. We have no faster than light capability. 4 months. Earth had weeks at most." Day One looked around the bridge. His crew watched him, waiting for orders. Waiting for hope. He had none to give, but he would not let them see that. "Send a message to all surviving ships," he said. "We gather and we move. Now." Within hours, the 12 human ships formed a convoy. The Indomitable led them. Behind came the carrier Defiant, the cruisers Storm and Hammer, 2 destroyers, 4 frigates, and 3 supply ships. 12 ships to save a world. Captain Jiwoo commanded one of the frigates, Shadow's Edge. She was 32 and known for taking risks. Her voice came over the communication channel. "Commander Day One, my sensors are picking up life signs on several alien ships. Some went into emergency cryo-sleep before their systems failed. We could wake them. Get help." Day One closed his eyes. He had known this moment would come. Negative, Captain. We don't have time or resources. Earth comes first. Silence on the channel. Then Jiwoo responded, her voice cold. Understood, Commander, but it was not understood. Not really. Over the next days, Daewon felt the resentment growing among his crews. They passed hundreds of frozen ships. Millions of aliens trapped in metal tombs. Some could be saved. Most could not. But the humans had to keep moving. Dr. Hana became essential to their survival. She was brilliant but awkward around people. She spent 18 hours a day studying the phenomenon that had frozen the galaxy. She worked in a small laboratory surrounded by screens and equipment that barely functioned. On the third day, she called Daewon to her lab. I found something, she said without greeting. The great stillness isn't natural. It's a weapon. Daewon felt the weight of those words. A weapon? Who would build something that destroys an entire galaxy? Hana pulled up data on a screen. I don't know who, but I know what. It's called an entropy cascade. It creates a field that makes advanced technology impossible. Quantum states collapse. Complex systems fail. Only simple machines can function. How long will it last? Hana hesitated. The energy signature suggests a very long time, decades, maybe centuries. Daewon left the lab feeling sick. The galaxy would be frozen for generations. Civilizations would collapse. Billions would die. And the Vraxians, with their biological ships, would feast on the helpless, unless someone stopped. Then Admiral Yuna commanded what remained of Earth's fleet from a mobile station called Arc Prime. She was 60 years old and had survived more political battles than military ones. When Daewon finally established contact with her, 3 weeks into their journey, her face on the screen looked ancient. Daewon, she said, how many ships? 12, Admiral. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. 12 ships to fight 10,000 Vraxian vessels. The odds are impossible. Yes, Admiral. And you're coming anyway. Yes, Admiral. Yuna nodded slowly. Then I'll tell you what we know. The Vraxians hit us 2 weeks after the Great Stillness began. Our orbital defenses were dead. Our fleet couldn't respond. They came in waves, landing on every continent. We've been fighting them on the ground, but we're losing. They breed fast. Very fast. And how long do we have? Our best estimate? 2 months before they've consumed enough resources to transform Earth into a breeding world. After that, there won't be anything left to save. Daewon did the math in his head. They were 4 months away. They would arrive 2 months too late. We'll find a way, he said. After the call ended, Daewon stood alone in his quarters. He looked at the picture on his desk. His daughter smiled back at him from the photograph, taken 5 years ago before he left on this deployment. She was on Earth now, probably dead, probably consumed by the Vraxians. He picked up the picture and held it carefully. I'm coming, he whispered. I promise. The convoy pushed forward through dead space. They passed the frozen Keltheran Empire. They navigated around the dormant Draken territories. Everywhere they looked, they saw the corpse of galactic civilization. On the 40th day, Engineer Sora made a breakthrough. She was a practical woman who believed in solutions, not problems. She called Daewon to the engine room. I've been thinking, she said, covered in grease and sweat. We're moving too slow because we're being careful. We're treating our ships like they're fragile. They are fragile, Daewon said. So is everything else. Sora grinned. But human ships were built by paranoid engineers. We have redundancies for our redundancies. I can push these engines 40% harder, maybe 50%, and if they break, then we die in space instead of arriving too late to save Earth. Either way, we're dead. Might as well die trying. Daewon approved the plan. The ships accelerated, their engines burning hotter than designed. They shaved weeks off their journey time, but the cost was high. 2 supply ships had to be abandoned when their engines failed. The resources were transferred to the remaining vessels. Now they were 10 ships. As they approached the edge of known space, heading toward the Abyss cluster, Daewon addressed his fleet one final time before the long silence of deep space. The galaxy has frozen, he said. His words transmitted to every ship. Civilizations have fallen. Billions are dead or dying. The Vraxians think they've won. They think the galaxy is theirs for the taking. He paused, letting his words sink in. But they forgot about us. They forgot about humanity. We don't have the best technology. We don't have the biggest ships. But we have something they'll never understand. We have the will to fight when fighting seems impossible. We have the courage to stand when everyone else has fallen. His voice grew stronger. Earth is under attack. Our families are dying. The odds are against us. The galaxy itself seems to have given up. But we haven't, we won't. Because that's what humans do. We endure, we adapt. We survive. The bridge crew stood straighter. On the other ships, crews stopped their work to listen. The galaxy may have frozen, Daewon said, his voice echoing across the fleet. But humanity burns hotter than any star, and we're bringing that fire home. The 10 ships pushed deeper into the darkness, their engines blazing trails of light through the frozen void. Behind them lay a dead galaxy. Ahead lay Earth in a battle they could not win, but they would fight anyway. Because they were human.